Welcome back to the Weekend Debate. I should mention, if Mike is back with us now, and Mindful Man is coming up. We'll do the big plug at the end. Don't let me let you go without that, because that brings us all together. Because if nothing else, if this intrigued you, your event will be definitely up everyone's street, won't they?
Yeah.
And now I did want to get on to, and we touched on it slightly, but the modern day living, coronavirus and the whole lockdown and that sort of thing, and the escalation I presume you've all seen in people's well-being. Who wants to kick this one off? Look at you, Mike. All right.
Go for it.
Yeah, well, I've certainly been busier. Yeah. And I think it's almost an excuse in a way for people to be pushed into doing something proactive. I mean, this is the thing about well-being or mindfulness or breath work or training your mind or trying to get the optimum out of yourself is it's proactive. You can't walk into someone's house and switch off Netflix and throw away their junk food, and it's personal choice. And often for many people, certainly in my case, I had to feel very depressed and anxious in order to look for something that would make me feel better. But that was a proactive thing. I wanted to feel better, and I wanted to discover tools that as Phil said, simple tools that I could implement to make myself feel better. And so there's a huge demand for that now. Of course, many of the people I work with, and I'm sure it's the same with you two, they've gone down the medical route, and that's enormously helpful. But many of those people, want to come off that, come off medication or try alternative ways of managing their stress, their minds. So that from my perspective, there's been a huge surge in people being proactive in what can I do to be healthier, more mindful, more self-aware, because that's really what we're talking about, is knowing ourselves better.
And you talk about self-medication, and to me that would mean a glass of wine after a stressful day. That's not a good idea, right? I mean, we all do it, but we shouldn't do it as much. You help me on
do
this
we
one.
all do it?
Well, I don't know, but what I'm trying to say to you is
we all have ways of coping,
Right.
and there's as many ways of coping as there are with people. It's just that some ways of coping can kind of flip over into negative ways of coping that become habitual. And then suddenly the only way you can cope with something is to smoke a pack of cigarettes, which then has a detrimental effect on your physical health. But some of these things are addictive: alcohol, drugs, cigarettes. There's other ways that actually, when we use, say, mindfulness or breath work, it makes you feel 10 times more resilient, capable, alive, in tune, present, which a cigarette doesn't do, or even a glass of wine, as nice as it is, doesn't do. And again, as Phil said, in our culture at the moment, we are beginning to re-educate and rediscover that for centuries, world cultures have known how to do these things, and we've just kind of forgotten. We've sort of mental amnesia. We've forgotten how to literally calm ourselves down.
Okay, well, you're going to come in here about the lockdown and all that, and how it's affected people.
Yeah, I mean, I from personal experience, I can comment and then build out my observations and what I've thought from there. I think that so what happened during the first lockdown, I was in the UK. So my fiance is shielded because she's got leukemia, which is managed. So she takes medication. So it's not that it's terminal, but it is incurable. So we live with that, and it's similar, I suppose, in a different context to having something like type 1 diabetes. We learn with it and we live with it. What happened during the first lockdown was that she was getting so many letters, really quite strong letters from the NHS about the dangers of going out, which was understandable. And what I noticed in her was a rapid decline in her mental health from someone that is very, very bubbly and effervescent. It can always really pretty much see the positive in any situation. And anyone that knows her knows this, that she, within a few months, had descended really into being agoraphobic, wouldn't go outside the house. I had to go and do everything. Once I came inside the house, all my clothes off, in the washing machine, I had to get a shower. She was terrified. And what I started to look at was like, what are we doing? What's our behaviours? How are we contributing towards this? And I started coaching. I did the only thing I know how. I started coaching. So we first of all said, look, let's turn the news off for straight away. We don't need to know everything that's going on. I'm sure if something big happens, we'll find out about it. Let's switch the news off. And we talk about the diet that we consume from a nutritional point of view, but nobody really understands the diet from an informational point of view. The stuff that you surround yourself absorbs into your mind and shapes the way you think. It shapes your lens. We were watching an incredible amount of news. All of it was bad news. All of it was death, destruction, viruses, death rates, infection rates. So we cut that out straight away. We both love a glass of red wine, exactly what Mike was saying, but it wasn't helping us because we were having a bottle of wine a night because we were locked in, basically. We weren't getting out and doing any exercise. So I started to look at all of our behaviors and realize, well, we're not getting our dopamine, we're not getting our oxytocin because she's disconnected from all her family, the cuddle hormone. Serotonin, is our best source of serotonin is vitamin D, which is from sunlight. Well, she's not going outside. She's not doing any exercise really because she's not getting her endorphins. So all of the good brain chemicals that we need, our behaviors were sabotaging the opportunity to get them. So we changed the way we were behaving, and it had a profound effect on her mindset. She was able to come out the other side of it. And then what that did for me is I thought, well, everybody needs to know this. So I put this presentation together based on the coaching that I'd done with Ruth called the Happy Chappy Guide. And I just started giving it to businesses, and I did a recording of it, which I'm happy to share, which we give out for free. It's like a 45-minute recording, and it explains to you the habits and the behaviors that you can do that can help you maintain mental health. It can help you to maintain wellness. It doesn't guarantee it, and you've got to always understand that there might be people that are suffering with more serious things and they do need that help. But for many of us, the solution and the problem lies in our daily habits and behaviors.
Wow, the solution and the problem. If everybody all knew what the solution was to a problem. Your thoughts on this?
Well, I totally agree with what Phil has just said. Our behaviours and our thoughts have a huge impact on our bodies, and not only just the thoughts, but also the chemicals that are affected by those behaviours can change how we are. And Phil just proved it, didn't he? During the first lockdown, I just thought, how can I help myself and everybody else around me? And it was trying to eat as healthily as I could, and I think that's paramount. That's one very important thing. I think our thoughts are massive. How our thoughts make such a difference to our well-being. We are what we eat, but we are what we think. So that's where mindfulness comes in. I did a lot of online breath work for people as well, in groups. And that was really helpful. It was amazing how many people came on, because I did a lot of free ones, but it helped a lot of people, and also giving them small tools, like whether it was I use something called 70 moments of presence, or relax your tongue as often as you can, so it brings you back to the present moment. And I think even just simple. I was showing people how to yawn during this time as well, So when I was doing some online stuff with groups of very traumatized people as well, and we were just doing yawning, right. Getting them to yawn to actually move the energy and in the body. So
we had 3 lockdowns as such here. What was the differences notable? I mean, the first one was a slight novelty factor to it for some people, I think. Second one was, here we go again. And the third one was definitely kind of people getting over it.
Yeah.
Did you notice the differences?
The weather was good, I think, the first one, which
we did have a good. Yeah, we did have good.
Did you notice differences in people's?
I think so. I think by the third one, there was a lot more people. If they hadn't actually dealt with some of the stuff that was going on in the first and second, or hadn't sort of realised. I found it certainly with clients that
because
really
some people
struggling.
What about lockdown? Others are worried about toilet roll.
Yeah,
you're not being flippant, but they were very worried about their lives and how they were going to get the essentials almost. Did you see that?
That was more
very
at the
big in
start,
some,
though, wasn't it? That was more at the first one.
Yeah, but in some people's minds, it became very big issues. I think.
I think I had a very different experience because I was in the UK. I think that one of the things that I noticed with the UK is that it developed a tolerance, because the UK really didn't have sort of 3 definitive lockdowns. It just had 2 massive ones, really. And it hasn't really ever fully come out. So I suppose it's been one continuous lockdown. It's just the depth of it and the severity of it has gone up and down. And what I noticed was that I think because the Isle of Man was coronavirus free, I think that the bubble had become such a protective blanket that whereas people in the UK had normalised living in the conditions of coronavirus, the tolerance level was normal, so they normalised lockdown. And then obviously what happened was when the bubble was broken, I think first time in January, we had a short lockdown, which was not too intrusive. And then they had the big outbreak, which was triggered. I just think that people were so terrified of losing that protective bubble that when it did collapse, it was just really difficult to deal with. And I think you're kind of seeing that now out and about. Certainly my observations is that you're seeing a lot of people out, not only with masks, but with gloves on, which is an interesting thing.
Well, I mean, right now, since we've opened up and people got...
I've noticed a lot of people out shopping now that there's obviously been an increase of masks, but not so much the masks, it's the gloves that I find interesting, because that reminds me of what it was like in the UK at the very start. People were wearing gloves, but that's sort of subsided, and wearing a mask is normalised really in the UK.
Everyone's thinking twice about what they're doing. I mean, there's a lot more thought about who shakes hands, and everything it all adds to people's own pressures.
And it's...
I mean, touch is such an important thing for humans. Contact, human touch and contact with each other. And I think that is causing a lot of issues. It has such an effect, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's touch about social media again properly now, because, this is the thing that can really affect people massively. How do you control social media in a way... Oh,
sorry, you turn it off.
No, you may be right. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. Is there a way of controlling it? Let's try that.
You mean personal use?
Yeah, I mean, it affects everybody, and we see... if you're in the public eye, you read snippy comments about yourself, and some people take it very personally. I mean,
I think it's happened so quickly in such a short space of time, this technology that we're now immersed in, and we don't know how to use it. Like, we're all using it, we're all on it, but we don't know how to. We haven't been taught because it's happened so quickly. So it's hard to put limits and boundaries, and it's hard to, get off it when you want to. So it's a very sticky thing, and it's very useful and practical, yes, and connecting in some ways, but it's also obviously problematic in many, many ways. And just anyone that has a smartphone knows that, it's very hard just to put it down.
But I'm not the only one. I can't watch anything on TV anymore. I have to also pick up the iPad or phone. I'm doing 2 things at once almost, and certain programs that are like Love Island, for those people who follow that, you've actually got to be wired up for the social media to really immerse yourself in the thing properly.
So what that does is we're constantly being triggered in big ways. Talk about the T's, small traumas, big traumas, well, triggers as well. So every time the phone goes or there's an email, we're constantly reacting. And when do we ever get the time just to be, essentially? Just to actually not be reacting, no fight or flight, just sitting in our own skin, calm, happy.
Well, that was called 2 weeks on holiday in Costa whatever.
But even
because
then,
now you know,
even then we're probably thinking, oh God, I have to go home tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
So when I was a child, because my dad was a Buddhist monk for a time, and we had Buddhist masters visit our house, I can remember the elderly Buddhist Burmese masters, and they'd be meditating in the meditation hall. And they would be sat there for 2 to 3 hours, completely motionless. They would not scratch their nose. They wouldn't open their eyes. They were like statues. 2 to 3 hours, and we'd be looking at them thinking, "Hello, are they there?" They're completely in a deep state of absorption, deep state of meditation. Now, who can do that now? Who can stay still for that long? We're so reactive that we can't help but fidget and move and react. We've lost that ability to be still. And in that stillness, there's a lot of tolerance. There's a lot of space for thoughts to come and go and feelings to come and go without feeling that we have to fix ourselves or get rid of a thought or get rid of sadness. I always say to people that everyone's so interested in getting fixed. somehow. But this is the human experience. You know, we're human beings. There's no kind of end point. You know, so it's more about how do I relate to sadness when I feel sad? How do I relate to the fact that I have a thinking mind? How do I relate to the fact that, you know, there's urges and desires and I can get pulled into doing certain things like social media and things like that? Like, how do I relate to that? So that's really what counts. And then we can just reflect on social media use. You know, how are my habits with social media and how can I change that?
In the words of the Chimes and U2, we still haven't found what we're looking for, though, isn't it? Isn't that always the quest for everybody? No one is actually happy where they are. They're always looking for the grass is greener scenario.
But if you put your mind down, which is the mind that tells you that this isn't good enough, there's the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. As soon as you put that mind down, which is what I, you know, train people to do, you're sitting in a no problem state of mind. That's what I call it. I call it a problem-free state. And the people I work with often have big problems. They've got issues. They've got, you know, life events. They've got trauma. They are able to settle themselves down into a state of mind whereby if I ask them, do you have a problem right now? No. Now, they think that's 10 years ahead of them when they're fixed or when they've made £1 million or when they've found the dream job or the dream person. It's a state of mind that is sitting on this chair right now. But we just don't know it's there. So my perspective is the answer, as it were, is here. And it's within everybody, but we're not looking in here. We're looking out there. And often we're just glued to a screen, you know.
And when Apple tells me once a week my screen time's up 28% or whatever, you go, really? I mean, I can't believe it. But we are addicted, are we not, to social media?
It's addictive technology.
Addicted.
Yeah.
And it's a distraction as well. Sometimes we don't want to be with our thoughts. So we distract ourselves by watching the telly and being on our phones, and you know, and the other thing I was going to say is we're called human beings, and we spend most of the time being human doings. So maybe we should do a bit more of just being, and as you said, just being in the moment, and the power of now, of this moment is so important. You know,
we had a theoretical discussion on the course that I'm running at the minute that most people can agree that you create your future with your present. Agree?
Yeah.
And what the discussion we had today was you also create your past with your present.
Yeah.
You create your past and your future at the same time in the present moment. And the reason for that is because obviously the past doesn't exist. The only place it exists is between your ears. So my personal past, the only place it exists in a universe of 300 billion galaxies with 300 billion stars with trillions of planets, is about a sort of a 6-inch by 4-inch piece of meat between my ears, a piece of grey matter. It exists nowhere else. I can't touch it. I can't go to it. So I create my past by attaching meaning to it in my present. So, you know, I spend a lot of time thinking about something that bothered me and something I did wrong. So I'm creating that past. So it doesn't exist anywhere else. And my understanding of the idea of many pursuits of meditation and mindfulness is to understand there is only a now that just keeps it unfolding and unfolding and unfolding. And the future hasn't yet happened. You can't touch it. The past is, like you say, you can't go there. You can't touch the past. It only exists between your ears. So actually getting just into the present, most of the people I work with, and me included as well, I spend a lot of my time, where do I need to be later? Who do I need to see tomorrow? What do I need to do next week? Oh, I upset that guy last week. Oh, I wasn't able to go and do that coaching 3 weeks ago. So I spend all my time in two places that don't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being present also means, you know, being aware. And being aware means noticing. And noticing means choice. You know, if you notice, oh, there's that thought, then I don't have to go with that thought. You know, I can choose something else. So without being present, there's no awareness, you know, because we're just getting pulled into the past, pulled into the future. Without awareness, there's no choice. So you just end up living out a kind of habitual loop. And I was just going to say, one of the popular words that you hear around meditation is karma. And people think it means many different things, but it just means cause and effect. Like if I carry on thinking these thoughts and acting this way, that's going to become my future moments because nothing is going to change. But if I can be present and aware and notice that thought come up and choose something else, then I'm literally changing that stream of cause and effect. So I'm literally redirecting my life in a different direction. But you can't do that if you don't notice it.
Wow. Listen, just to finish, as promised, people, if you've been interested and want to take this further, and for any of my guests, you'll be the conduit, I'm guessing, to put people in the right people and that sort of thing. And you're Mindful Man. Just remind everyone about what's going on.
Yeah, so Mindful Man, so Rosemary and Phil are popular speakers at Mindful Man. This year it's Saturday, 14th of August at the Children's Centre. So there'll be breath work, there'll be Phil doing one of his talks with some of his jokes, which is funny. And
that's a big build-up.
Yeah, it is. Sorry, Phil. They better be good though. Yeah, there's a whole variety of different things for people to come and try, talks, workshops, some keynote speakers zooming in as well, best-selling authors, food, drink. So it's a real day, but it's a kind of celebration of positive mental health. You hear mental health and you think, oh God, dismal, negative mental health. Well, no, you can have positive, you can be proactive, you can become aware. So at the festival, you'll find out a whole variety of tools and perspectives just to help you enact that in your own life.
And as always, where do they find out more information for you?
Well, it's all over Facebook, Mindful Man. Just put that into Facebook, or you can go to my website, mikehewley.com, and get tickets that way.
And if any of these individual guests, the people want to get in touch with them, they can go through you and you can help them out.
Yeah, or you'll find them on...
All their details are over there. Well, I think it's been nice to do something like this. It's quite different, and you feel, if it just helps one person out there who will reach out for some help, then that will be good, wouldn't it? Really, and it's just that thing we said at the beginning, knowing when you need that little bit of help, because you can't necessarily do it all yourself.
No.
Thank you very much indeed for watching. Please leave your comments, be kind as always, and if you want to be a guest and you've got something to add, feel free to get in touch with me as always. And thanks for watching the Weekend Debate.